Okay, so today we will start the ninth Pauri of our Bani Bavan Akhari, and last week we had a very good discussion on Pauri number 8. So continuing from Khakha to Gagga letter, so it starts with Gagga gur ke bachan pachana, दूजी बात न तरही काना, रह बिहंगम कत हे न जाई, अगह गहे गह गगन रहai. So what I get from this is it starts with Gagga Gurke Bachan Pachana. So this is where that the person gets an understanding of what is Guru's teaching is. So now Guruji has used the word Pachana, means he completely understands them, or he starts implementing them. He starts following them. Then what happens? Duji baat na tarhi kana. Then he is stable and he is not influenced by anything else. So he is out of that duality and he believes in Guru and he starts implement it. So that is what Guruji Kabir Sahib is explaining a stage, that once you get into that kind of stage, and then in next two lines he is explaining the outcome of that, that once you get into that kind of mode, then rahe bihangam kat hi na jai, aghe gahe gah gagan rahai. So rahe bihangam is, then he is taking an example of a bird, that a bird will make his nest on one tree, and then due to migration or if anything happens to that tree, they are okay, they are fine, they will make their nest on the next tree, or they will move away, then they will come back and go to the other trees. So they are not associated so much with that. So that is the kind of outcome Kabir Sahib is expecting, that once we start implementing Guru's teaching, then only we can disassociate, or the way I am looking at it is that we can be aware of our surroundings and we understand it, and then only we get the real knowledge, and we implementing that real knowledge, we will know, we will disassociate, or we will not pay more than what is required for something, or we will know the real worth of everything. So that is what will come out from that. And then the last line, Agay Gahe, Gahe Gagan Rahai, means then he is saying that the people say that, okay, you cannot comprehend, or you cannot completely define the creator, but here the way I am thinking, then the realization comes that the creator is in the creation, and as the word Ram, he is part of everything. So with that kind of understanding, like a bird, you will see him everywhere and you will fly with that kind of understanding. So anywhere they will go, they will feel his existence and they will be with him. So that's all for the first round, ji. Virji, you can continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Virji. Ji, chalo Virji.
The point is to understand what it means by Gur ke Bachan. Gur ke Bachan Pachana, there is something that manifests in human body, and that manifestation happens through the Gurbani, and once that manifestation has manifested, then recognizing that manifestation as Gur ka Bachan is the most important aspect of what Gurmat intelligence, what Gurmat wisdom is all about. Once one understands that manifestation as Gur Ka Bachan, then one does not feel like listening to anything other than that, because that manifestation is the ultimate truth. Gur Ka Bachan is the ultimate truth. Once one reaches to that understanding, that recognition, and that association with that manifestation, then one does not go anywhere. One is cut off from everything, and one stays there only. Rahe behangam kate na jai. One need not to go anywhere because of the association with Gur Ka Bachan. Beyond that, Agge Geha, Gahe, Gah, Gagan Rahai, there is nothing else to accomplish in that space in which the seeking being has recognized what is Gur Ka Bachan, and one stays connected with that Gur Ka Bachan. So I'm not trying to be mystical about it. It is actually the manifestation of Gur Ka Bachan in the human body. Once that gets recognized, only then one stops from other secondary sources. That's the primary source within. I don't know what would be equivalent to Gur Ka Bachan, but for me, through Gurbani, there are several validations that points me toward that. Once one understands Gur Ka Bachan, now Gur Ka Bachan is the Sabad Roop, and it dwells in all the three levels, three domains. Triloi, it dwells in all the three domains, Triloi. So that's the only truth about our existence. That's the only way we can get out of this whole spread of right and wrong, of duality, of something other than that. Duji baat na tarika na. Once one understands what is Gur Ka Bachan, that dwells in the three domains, one doesn't feel like having to listen to anything other than that, because one has accomplished that Gagga Gur Ke Bachan Bachana. Thank you, Ji.
Ajit, thank you. Eileen, can you give us your take on what is referenced here by Gurke Bachchan and any feedback on this complete body? Eileen?
Okay. I thought a very similar idea about the pervasiveness or just the immersion in Gurke Bachan that seems to be described through in the whole in the whole 4 lines, because even the second line that talks about like I was translating it as a second story can't be supported by one's ears, so that it almost seems like you're full, you're complete. You know, my ears can't even take in any more information once I've recognized the Guru's teaching. So it's so complete and filling that there's no more to be said. And then it seems like it was describing, you know, kind of what that's like, and it seems to be describing a state of being where even if you're not moving around, or even if you're not attached to things, you can still, even just like, I imagine just standing in one place, you can just grasp or you can start to appreciate or grasp something that's completely unfathomable. And I was thinking of the last line kind of means the you could understand creation, like what the creation that holds up the sky. You could just get a sense of that when you are complete and immersed in Guru Ke Bachan. That's all I have for that one.
Thank you very much. Anji, Gagan.
I can just share for the first half what I understood is, in continuation from the previous two Pauris, Kapka Kiran Kamal Mein Pawa, and then the next one Kha Khod E Man Awa, where we learned that through the knowledge that we get from Gurbani and Ved and whatever knowledge source there is outside of spiritual knowledge, through that knowledge, once our man becomes inward focused and finds it home in the chit, in the cave of the chit, then I think here what it is being shared is what the true Gurka Shabad is, and this true Gurka Shabad will come from inside, and we will know that it is really Gurka Shabad, because we keep saying ki, listen to your heart, or listen to yourself, listen to your inner voice, but we don't know if it is our ego talking or is it really Gurka Shabad that is talking. And we assume that whatever voice is coming from inside is the truth. It's not necessarily. It could very well be our ego is really talking very loudly, and that I think that is where that Pankti is taking us, and I absolutely have no idea what that Pankti about Gagan is talking about. So I would really love to learn about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vici. Anji, Paramjit Vici.
Waheguru Ji Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Fateh Ji. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear. Yes, we can.
Yes. I have been thinking, and I could only understand the first three lines. And fourth line, I would like to receive some input from the forum and the people sitting around the table. One thing is very clear now in my mind after spending some time, that the Gurbani, when I search Gurbani for the word man, over 83% of the time, 5,443 times the word man has come in Gurbani. The whole Gurbani is not to human beings, it is to the man. When we say ki asi aadmiyanu, human, this is what we should be doing, I think, in my opinion now, as I think more and more about this thing, the whole story is going on about man. Kabir Sahib is talking about man. Man is being, talk is about man. And that is very clear in my mind now, that there's no human being. Human beings are just bones and flesh and bone, but inside is what the discussion, dialogue is going on. So we have to be clear about that. This is the way I think. And here, I think Gagan mentioned about the word chit and man. Yes, those things are something we need to understand. There are two parts of that now as my mind is getting some clarity. When man is out there, Gur ke bachan pachana, this is man when it is out there in the world of Maya, and he understands Guru Shabad. Now, one confusion came into my mind. Guru Shabad, what is Guru Shabad here? I'm not very clear about that. The reason, it just came to my mind when I think either Charan Singh Ji was talking about, or maybe Eileen was talking about Gurkha Shabad. When this Bani was written, this Bani was written 12th century, well before Guru Sahib came into this world. Kabir Sahib the Bani, obviously, what Guru Shabad is being referred to here. A Gurbani was not there at that time. But this Bani is divine wisdom they are talking about. So I think we need to be clear about that. My understanding is when one is able to get divine wisdom out of this Maya, then he determines that the divine wisdom is the one to which it has to hang on to. And once he gets that attachment that nothing else means to him, I'm referring the mind, man, then everything else in Maya is totally irrelevant to this man. That's my understanding. And he also, in the next line, there's a metaphor of a bird, as I understand, that the bird sitting on a branch of a tree is going to take flight in the morning. So there's no attachment there. The mind also knows that although this Gyan has come, that Gyan is telling him that just be focused on divine wisdom and everything else is totally irrelevant. Don't attach to it. It learns not to attach to it. But the fourth line, I'm still in limbo in understanding. So I'll wait for somebody to put some light on me, please. Vaheguru ji Khalsa, Vaheguru ji Fateh ji.
Anji, thank you, ji. Anji, Gurjeet Vik ji.
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. It has been a good discussion. Those questions, let's see if we can address those. Matra Gagga is used for the letter Gagga. So this is the original language in the Vedic, and that's why Hindi people say, or Sanskrit people say Ga for that. Ga Gurke. See, the matra is K, not K. And K ref. There were Gurke Bachan available to Kabir ji. If you read his old Gurbani, he says, because he found Gurke Bachan recorded in those scriptures in Maghar, which was actually distorted when all that went to Kashi. So from Kashi, he travels to Maghar. It's also a historical thing. He tells Pachhanna. Actually, the Bachan should be with the Sihari. Otherwise, it doesn't make a sense. I have obtained the knowledge through Gurke Bachan. Through. Not that I just obtained Gurkha Bachan. Gurke Bachan was available and he has mentioned enough times. Ram Japoji, aise. They had those Gurke Bachan. Through Prahlad had Gurke Bachan. And from Gurke Bachan, the whole context is rotating around Gurbani, Gur Prasad. So all these words are in reference to Gurke Bachan. So Gurke Bachan is Gurbani, which was written by previous Bhagats, which has been mentioned as, if you read Sri Rag, Paire Gurbin Muktana Hoi Pucho Brahme Narde Ved Vyase Koi. They have recorded this, but Pandit was hiding them. Kabir has actually found them, and now he tells that I have obtained how the Kakha Khode Manawa. Khode Chodna Dadistava. I think we're talking about this bird again, but let's talk about Man. Kabir ji has mentioned Kabir Man Pankhi Bhaya. Let's bring it to the Man, as the Rana Virji is saying. We have to bring the Man in there. So Man has to obtain the knowledge through Gur, what I am and what's my mool. So this was recorded already, but was hidden, as it's recorded even in Gurbani now. But most of the Sikhs don't understand what is Gurke Bachan and how to obtain association with our mool. So that's what I have understood. Gagga Gurke Bachan Pachhanna, that I have, through the Gurke Bachan, which has been written. I'm from Gyan Khand, now I'm advancing slowly, and I'll ultimately reach Sach Khand. So he is in Gyan Khand now. From Dharam Khand, this shows that he's in Gyan Khand, and then Duji Baat na Tarhi Kanna. Whatever was written in the Kashi Granths was Duji Baat. He says, I have to unlearn the learned stuff. I have to basically forget what I have learned before. Even Kabir has written a Bijak, which he rejected himself. That's what Duji Baat was. Where, you were trying to associate that I'll directly go into the Dar. But now Kabir ji has understood that Dar is first, Kar is later. So these are the stages. Gur ke bachan pashanna is Jap. That's why the first title, the whole of Gurbani Guru Nanak will write from here. This is the history. This is written before, as Ranavi ji is saying. And Guru Nanak, when they write Jap ji, will ultimately follow from here. So Gur ke bachan pachana is Jap. Duji Bana Tarikana is any other knowledge about Brahm, which was written in other. I have to basically erase it. I have to leave it. Rahe Bihangam. Now what's the situation of man? Bihangam means Gamta to Rahat. The man used to go into Trikuti before, but now it has come into the heart forever. Hirde vich aa gaya, kat hai na jai. Before, in the last one, he was saying, they had this, what was the, I think, let me see, what was the exact wording? Kakha khode manawa, khode chadna dehadisitava. So that dehadis problem has been over now. Because his dehadis was only when he was going into the Trikuti. Then, the last line he says, agay gahe. Actually, the English translation is pretty good here. Who grasped the ungraspable law? Firstly, the man was a gah. Man pakad vich nahi si aunda. Gah means to catch someone. You need a very smart wisdom. You need a faster wisdom to catch the man. Agay gah. Kabir has even mentioned that even the Chaurasi Siddh couldn't find where he writes. There's a Shabad, Kini babeki kati tum. I think he says, there is a quite typical wording. Sarpani ka bada danga, something like this he writes. I don't remember. So that's what he's trying to say. Agaya hai. The one which has not been caught by the Siddhs, by the Yogis, whosoever was there, any other religions, I have basically caught him now through my wisdom. And the wisdom is Gur ke Bachan. Gah Gagan Rahai. Now what it has happened, the Surat has taken to the Gagan. Shabad da Surat naal mel shuru ho gaya. The Surat has to go into the Gagan to meet the Shabad Guru. So it's basically that stage. Now he's slowly advancing. From Jap, he's now advancing towards the stage of Dhyan. That I have obtained the full knowledge. My mind is stable in my heart. What's the next step? This stable mind with the Purna Brahm now has to take another step. Gagan is Gagan Damama Baju, then Kabir says. Gagan is the Dasam Dwar. Now I'm taking this into the Dasam Dwar, and that's the whole aim of Gurmat Shabad Surta Mail. So that's what I have to say. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Birji, can we ask question or should we wait till the end?
No, you can ask the question.
Gurjeet Virji, why did you, for the first two lines, why did you take Gur as outside Gur? Because as we just discussed in the previous two Podis, outside Gur, the Gyan, it already had happened when we said Kakka Kiran, but where we talked about when the Gyan of Gurbani comes to your mind, then you start moving towards your heart. And ude baad jada we started jada pichla kakha khod di gal hoi thi ki now the mind has started residing in that heart. I was assuming ki bhai kithe fir jada gur ਕੇ ਬਚਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ, that is about the ਗੁਰ ਕਾ ਬਚਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ. How did you decide this is the external?
Haji, Abhijit Vir ji. Abhijit Vir ji, you're mute right now.
I think he dropped off or something. We can wait for that question towards the end.
So, Vivek, do you have anything else what you heard so far, or that's Charanveer ji?
Haji,
Charanveer ji, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think I know I'm not regular on this discussion, and one of the reason is because we are still following the methodology that is not Gurmat methodology. Let me be plain and straight enough for everyone who is listening here and for whosoever will listen from here. Now, what do I mean by that Gurmat methodology? We are trying to build up our conversations based on our secondary sources. This is history. Kabir Sahib has come before Guru Nanak. It's 1200, like Virji was saying, that it is a 1200 century Bani, whereas 300 years before. So these type of confusions will continue if we consult secondary sources. Now, what Gurmat methodology I personally subscribe to, and I would encourage everyone to look into it as an alternative, and that is I have searched from the Khoj Gurbani website, what does Gur ke Bachan means. There are 4 references that have come. Gur ke Bachan sat kar mane mere Thakur bahut pyare. Gur ke Bachan karan sun tyave bhav sagar par pare. Gur ke Bachan sat ji taro. If we take these 4 references, all these 4 panktiyan would be crystal clear without any notion of mind coming into it, without any notion of Kabir ji going to Maghar or Kashi, without any reference to Kabir ji knowing the Shabad or Vyas doing that or Vyas not doing that or someone else doing that. All those type of things need to be trashed, because once we try to open the phrases and vocabulary of Gurbani through Gurbani, then only we'll be able to unfold the blissfulness that is contained in the Gurbani. It is so blissful, and I don't discourage anyone to misunderstand Gurbani also, because if we will not misunderstand Gurbani and its interpretation, we will not be privileged to understand it. The misunderstanding should encourage us more to go to the core of Gurbani meanings, rather than just look for helplessly towards the secondary sources. There is a likelihood of secondary sources being tampered, altered, miscommunicated, but there is no way that Gurbani could be altered, because that is the Turki Bani. There are vested interests who would like to encourage us to rely upon the secondary sources. And my suggestion is we should not rely upon secondary sources. All Gurbani should be learned through the Gurbani, because then that second thing, Duji Baat na Tarikana, when we move to the secondary sources, we are attentive to that Duji Baat, which the very next Pankti is cautioning us not to do it. So I'm wondering, why are we listening to the secondary sources when the very Gurbani of the second Pankti is asking us not to listen to any other secondary source? Duji baat na tarika na. I have not heard of anything other than the Gurka Bachan. I think Gurji has said that Gurka Bachan and Gurke Bachan is different. So I happened to go back to the Khoj Gurbani website and found four references to Gur Ke Bachan as a phrase, as a common term for in combination used 4 times. And once I read those, it gives me more clarity. I do not have to go to any secondary sources to validate my perspective. I have not to listen. Duji baat na tarika na. I don't listen to any other secondary source. I just ask the Guru. मैं अपना गुर पूछ देखया. That is the core where Gurbani opens from Gurbani, within the Gurbani, through the Gurbani, in terms of Gurbani, and there the understanding of blissfulness emerge. That's just few words I would like to say. Thank you, Ji.
Yeah, if I could add.
Sorry, go ahead.
If I could just add, you know, Achanji's point, you know, I too find the path of the historical or kind of the analytic path of what's happening oftentimes really distances me from the application to my life. And in this particular puncti, you know, I would just point out, I think that it's very understandable without that historical kind of analysis, right? Because if I contemplate what it means to understand something at a pure truth level, right? If Guru Ke Bachan is pure truth, I think to myself, well, what other things do I have that kind of a strong belief in? Maybe I believe 2 + 2 = 4. Or maybe I believe, you know, that my friend is a good person. There are certain things that or, you know, my children, I have certain things in my life, in my experience that I can relate to that says, well, this is something that is a core belief that I believe is true. And if I was able to recognize pure spiritual truth, right? And in the same way that I believe 2 + 2 = 4, then no one can convince me 2 + 2 = 5. You know, no one can convince me that my child is not my child, right? There are just certain things which are, it's an axiom. And so I think when we pursue, you know, the understanding, there's two kind of different types of understanding. One is sort of an understanding that's very analytical, and another one is very personal. And so you know, sometimes I just think that if we could add more personal understanding, it would certainly help me.
Very well said. Can I just add something, please?
Anji, go please.
Anji, I agree with both Eileen and Charanveerji. The very, very good points are raised here. One point about pure truth, as Eileen is saying, yes, that is the challenge. Truth is outside, but what is the pure truth? And that's exactly what we are looking for. There are Babas out there, sons are out there, preachers out there, interpreters out there. Everybody is presenting us truth. But it is up to us now to determine, to sort out what is pure truth, and that is where the challenge comes in. And when we said that Charanveerji, I think he dropped off, but when he said that that phrase Gur Ke Bachan comes 4 times in Gurbani, yes, those are the 4 times we should draw meaning from those four of these appearances or references in Gurbani. The point I was making was that we cannot take the meanings from 3 phrases and put it in the 4th one. We have to take collective meaning from all 4 phrases and understand what Gur Ke Bachan means. When Gur Ka Bachan is appeared here in Kabir Sahib's Bani, it was written before Gurbani was written. So that means what meaning he ascribed to it is the same what Gurbani ascribed. So I was trying to see that what Gurbani is saying when Kabir Sahib was saying 300 years before that. The same thing I was looking at Kabir Sahib's Bani at one time, which does not appear in Guru Granth Sahib. The word Naam appears there too. I was somehow I happened to hit that one, but that Shabad which Kabir Sahib is saying where the word naam has come, does not appear in Guru Granth Sahib. So the question comes, I was trying to look for the meaning of naam. So the point I am making is that we should take meaning from all four versions. But how do we explain the meaning which Guru Granth Sahib is saying right now was done before Guru Granth Sahib was written? So there has to be some unity there, and I'm trying to that is the test of the pure truth you're talking about, and that's one way to look at the pure truth, and that's what we are trying to do. That's my feeling, anyways.
Well, I think isn't it true though? Isn't it true? I guess if there is a truth, if there is an ultimate spiritual truth, and Kabirji describes that truth, you know, in 1 year, and then 500 years later, someone else describes that same truth. The truth hasn't changed, right? The truth is still the truth, but different people reveal the truth. So I don't find that it to necessarily be something that would differentiate, right? It's the same truth. It's just being described in different ways.
I think this is Gagan here. I think the reason why the question was put up around, you know, the timing was because of the question, because we are trying to understand, does Gurke Bachan over here mean the Gurke Bachan that we learn externally from Gurbani, or does the Gurke Bachan here is referring to something more deeper inner because of the sequence of the bodies that we have come through? The previous two bodies have talked about listening to the Gurbani, looking inside and going on that inner journey. Is this body then actually talking about identifying that Gurka Bachan or that truth within us, or is this body talking about identifying the truth outside and not listening to anything else? Because both of those meanings have been said by different people, even in this vichar. Like somebody was right before this talked about, I will not look at secondary sources. I have Gurbani and only Gurbani. And there was this other discussion that also had was, I think you only mentioned, I mean, that I can now identify the truth within me, right? I can now identify 2 plus 2. And I am leaning more towards this second meaning, and that's why I had put the question to the group as to whoever has understood the meaning to be to the external Gurbani or to the external sources, why did they assume that to be the meaning? And is there a way for us to decide which one it is? At least for my heart, this feels that this is about the inner identification of the truth, not the external identification of what is.
I see. Thank you, Gagan. That's helpful. Thank you.
Vichi, you want to add anything?
Haji, see, I think it is a very eye-opening discussion which we are having. So I was trying to address this through Gurbani. So our Japji Sahib starts with Kib Sachiara Hui Hai, Kib Kude Tutte Pal. So what is the teaching I am getting from these lines? So that is where I was going. So now when it says that Gurke Bachan, then I was also trying to relate Gurke Bachan to Sevak Sikh Pujan Sab Aave, Sab Gaave Har Har Uttam Bani. Gavya Sunya, Tinka Har Thai Pave, Jin Sat Gur Ki Agya Sat Sat Karmani. So it is the implementation of Guru's teaching. So Gagga Gurke Bachan Pachana means that once I understood, again Gurbani is understood means to me is that I start implementing it in my day-to-day life. Now what happens? So what is that? That our Mool Mantra clears it out for us, Ik Oankar, that the Creator is present everywhere, Satnam, Karta, and the Purakh part again, that He is everywhere, prevailing everywhere in everything. So now once I understand what the basics are, then I cannot be fooled. Duji baat na tari kana means that nobody can fool me anymore. Now there are a lot of examples that there was a Triloki Pandit who said that I can see the Triloki, and people went to him. There was one Guru, the Sikh, who did not go there because he said, I don't believe in you. The whole city went there. Now there is another story. There was a solar eclipse or lunar eclipse when you don't have, as per Hindu mythology, you cannot cook. In that city, there was one Guru Sikh who cooked. So that is what is Duji Baat Na Tarhi Kana. Means once I understood that what Guru is teaching it, then I cannot be fooled. Means Duji Baat Na Kari Tari Kana means that I cannot be attracted, or I cannot be associated, or I cannot be fooled by these type of things. Like somebody is giving me a stone, that if I wear this stone, then it will change my life, and then things will change around me. So these are the things that once I understand Guru's teaching, then Duji Baat Na Tari Kana, that I cannot be influenced by these falsehood stories. Now, and then the third line, Rahe Bihangam, Kathe Na Jai. There is lot of things in Gurbani which says that when we start implementing, Kathe Na Jai means he is not influenced or associated with things. So a very good example of that is that Antakal Jo Lakshmi Simre. So Antakal Jo Mandir Simre. So the way I look at that Shabad is that whenever we make decisions in our life and we get influenced by those things, and then Guruji explains the consequences of that. And the Pankti of Rahav line of that is, Are Bhai Gobind Naam Mat Visre. Means every time you make a decision or you make a choice, you make it under the influence of the Creator, understanding he is prevailing everywhere, and you are not associated with other things which are listed in that Shabad. So this line, Rahe Behangam Kathe Na Jai, reminds me of that kind of nature or that kind of outcome or living which Gurbani is teaching. And once we feel that Akal Purakh is everywhere and we are not influenced by this, then Rahe, that is there where Aghe Gahe, Gahe Gagan Rahai means that is when you will enjoy it to its fullness, okay? And then that means that you have captured what people say cannot be captured or cannot be achieved. So you have achieved that stage which people say cannot be achieved. So that's how I see it more from the practical implementation and from the Gurbani side. Thank you, Ji.
I just want to jump in for a second, if you allow me, please.
Anji, go ahead.
Anji, Badi Soni Dilpi ji, I think you explained very well. I used to, and I still do exactly the way you translated it, but that raised a lot of questions in my mind. When you say that, the question comes when you say I should do, I raised that question many times. That's where my confusion started to come up. Who this I is we are referring to? Unless we identify this is your man, the whole body is about man, you start thinking about these lines will differ. Yes, we should be looking at the practical guidance, but practical guidance which is meaningful, not what we want to hear from Gurbani. If Gurbani should tell us this thing, no, what we should be listening what Gurbani is telling and adopting that. It's not that what we want, wish. Gurbani is telling us that, let's try to interpret. So although what you said in each of the line, you are talking about I should do this, I should do this one. Bani is telling us this one. And that was my confusion all the time. Now when I started to understand, because I raised the question to many times, anybody would speak up, and I said, okay, now tell me that you said, even I'm going to ask the question to Gurjeet, because he said you need to grab man. He mentioned that in the line, I made a note of that, and I was going to ask him, who is this you're talking about? Because man is the whole thing. Whole Bani is talking to man, is directing and all that. So we have to be, I think, once you start thinking that It is not I, it is my man. The meanings of these, our thinking starts to change. That is one of the concerns. The second question is, Gurjeet Viji said that Bachan word should be with Sihari, and that is troubling to me because I cannot sit down and start correcting Guru Sahib, uh, who has scribed this Bani, and tell him that no, this word is wrong. I cannot accept that one. So I will raise that issue with Gurjeet why he is saying that Bachan should be with Sihari, because we are not here to tell Gurbani is written wrong. So these are some of my observations, and I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Anji and Gurjeet Virji.
Hanji Virji, coffee. There are a lot of issues. First of all, I'll say why Mahalla first Bani records is always being recorded first, then Mahalla, Duja, Tija, Chotha. Duja Mahalla has no Bani. There is a historical timeline being followed in Gurbani. If it's that way, you could never understand Gurbani. These historical aspects are coming from as Tirath Vart or Machli Suraban. This relates to, we could only understand 10% of the Gurbani if you don't know the history. Guru Nanak Kabir ji is not talking to us. Guru Nanak Kabir ji is talking to those confused faiths of the time. He is talking to mostly Pandits, he is talking to yogis, and he says there is a history available that this piece of earth on which we are living, there has been Bhagats who has been mukt. How come the problem started? How come I could find the same knowledge and you were not? And he writes, Panjme Pasha writes a Shabad, Char Manne. There were 4 Veds available. Khat bhi eha baat bakhane. There were 6 Shastras available. 10 Ashti mein leko keha, 18 Purans. This is all history. Gurbani comes after that, the one we are reading. So if you try to leave, people have been bluffing us that Faridji was born before. But Gurbani historically tells us that Kabirji was born before, his Bani is first, then Faridji's Bani. This chronicle order is not missing at a single place in Gurbani. So history has got a major role to play if you want to understand. And for that purpose, that's why Dasam Pasha has to write Dasam Granth. Just to tell you how from 5,000 years ago, how the religions have taken various routes. And then we have forgotten that Kabirji has mentioned, he says in this Shabad, Hindu Ved Puran, Man Samjhavan Karne, Turk Tariqat Janiye Hindu Ved Puran, Man Samjhavan Karne, Kachuk Padiye Gyan. He's trying to tell us from where is he reading. He hasn't. And दूजी बात is तुर्क तरीक़त ना असी कुरान नु मानते हैं ना असी को गीता नु मानते हैं. We don't follow any of these. That's what even 10th Guru has said. पाएंगे जब नहीं आने राम रहीम कुरान कुरान अनेक कहें हम एक न मान्यो. This is what Kabir ji says. There were literatures available which he has mentioned in the 3rd Pauri, I think, and he's just following from there. Someone will ask, where did you obtain all this? If you are rejecting that the Quran is not worth following, the Purans are not worth following, where did you obtain this from? I think this is what he's mentioning. Gagga Gurke Bachan Pachana, and this Gurke Bachan, he has particularly written this history. No other Bhagat has written a history. Even Guru Nanak hasn't written a history. Where did he go? But Kabirji's Bani has a lot of history which tells us, Pehle Darshan Maghar Payo. Maghar is the name of the city. What was in Maghar, what was not available in Kashi. Then he says, from Kashi Base Ai, then I bring that knowledge back to Kashi, which is Banaras now, the city's name, or Varanasi now. So until you follow the history, because Gurmat has been there since the humanity has been born, and it comes in different languages. As Eileen was saying, even 500 years ago, from now, it will come again. So with Ranaveer ji, even last time we had this problem too, that we were missing the Buddhi. Buddhi has to catch the man. because man is the son of buddhi. It's the mother who has to basically take effort to get him under control. I think you have this question last time as well in the last Pauri which we were doing. So 3 elements are there. Gur ke bachan is something which were available but was hidden. Kabir ji was lucky enough to find it. And then he says, what I have done the next stage is that I have basically, through that gyan, which is obtained through wisdom, the man has been subdued, put back into the hirda. And now the next step is Gagan Rahai. Now I have to take him to the stage where it attaches to the Gagan. Because Gagan is where the Jyot will ultimately attach to become to get the stage of Sachkhand Vasya and Rankar. So he's slowly taking us from Jap to Dhyan and then ultimately into the abode. So any other questions if you think?
Gurjeet ji, so your question, my original question is still unanswered. You know, for the previous 2 Pauris, we were on the inward journey. We were talking about man, we were talking about buddhi, helping the man with the help of the Gurbani Gyan. It started from Kakka Kiran, right? Kiran, he was Gurbani. Then how come in that inward journey,
we have never left.
For these 2 sentences in Gagga, we now start talking about the external Gurbani once again, because the meaning of this Shabad is even
we never left.
वही मैं कह रहा हूँ क्योंकि ये इस मीनिंग इस शब्द का मीनिंग अगर गुर के बचन हिरदे तो जेडे आने वाले गुर के बचन ने वो लईए ते होर निखर के आंदे ते मैं इस करके पूछना चाहता सीगा कि तुसी किस बेसिस ते डिसाइड कीता कि भी ये हिरदे तो गुर के शब्द नहीं ये बाहर दा गुर का शब्द है
ये मन नू समझाया जा रहा जी it's not Gurbani will only take us to Puran Brahm. And for that stage, the man has to understand. Didn't he started the context? Man samjhavan karne. And then he says, Hindus are doing the same effort.
No, I understand that.
Quran.
But now in that journey, we have already come to Khakha Khod E Man Ava. The man has already
doesn't matter.
Come to
he has only come. But now he says, oh yeah, he has to travel to 3 more countries. He has to go through 3 more khands. He had Saram Khand, Karam Khand, and then Sachkhand. He still needs the Gyan from outside, which what he says. Guru Nanak also says, Gura Ikkade Bujai. What is Gura Ikkade Bujai? Gura Ikkade Bujai is also Gurbani.
No, so then the other question opens up where it says that how is he Gur Ke Bachan Pachhana?
Because Gur Ke Bachans were available. Gur Ke Bachans were available.
There are many Gur Ke Bachans available.
No, not Gur Ke Bachan. They were all fundamentally wrong literature. That's why he says Gur Ke Bachan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How does he say Gur Ke Bachan Pachhana? Because अगर inner meaning लेंदे हैं फिर ते इस तरह गल समझ आंदी कि भाई ये मन दौड़ना बंद करता है ते चित्त दे नाल, you know, when the man stops running and comes and resides with the chit, then you can on your inside start identifying the truth. That meaning I can understand. But जब इन्हों असी बाहर ले जाने हैं, that meaning I cannot understand कि, you know, now Kabir ji is in the effort of identifying what is the true bachan of the Guru. Because how, like, agar Guru Kabir ji da man... I didn't understand.
What does Nanak says? What the Bhatt says is that Satguru Nanak bhakti kari. Which bhakti? From where did he started doing the bhakti? Gur ki mat tu le aane, bhakti bina wo dubbe se aane. This is the bhakti. Gur ki mat is written in Gurbani. You are skipping, you are really going too fast. You are going too far. Moreover, Guru is not Guru is Mukta here. Guru is not with an Ankar. Gur ke bachan has to be in Maya. Charanveer ji has told this principle a lot of times that Gur, when it is Mukta, it has to be in Maya, but when Gur is with an Ankar, will become ultimately the one. And how come he is not following this now? Gur ke bachan are in Maya. This is the Gyan in Gurbani. If we can pachhanna hai, firstly you read it, then you comprehend it, and then you apply it. That's what pachhana is.
And it is not a
Dude,
competition between you and Charan Virji. It is, for learners like us, it is very helpful for people like you and Charan Virji who have done a lot more
no,
research.
but he has been saying that Gur is with Onkad is the other Chetan Gur, and Gur with Mukta is the normal Maya's Gur Gyan. That's what I'm trying to remind. Ki confusion क्यों हो रही है हम? Gur के बचन has to be Gurbani in Maya.
I think let me go to Charanvirji. His name is mentioned. Charanvirji, you want to add?
Yeah, let me clarify, Virji. Can you pull up the Gurke Bachan phrase in 4 references which you were showing before? Let me read it. Gagga Gurke Bachan Pachana. Next Pankti Chaunda ji, Gurke Bachan. Now it's defined here. Sat Kar Mane. Pretty much up to here, whatever was Dilpreet Virji saying, that is, we have accepted that. Right? Guru di Bani nu asi man liya. And who has agreed on that? The next portion of that clarifies. Mere Thakur bahut pyare. Right? The Guru ke bachan sat kar kinne mane ne? The one who is very dear to me. Mere Thakur ne manne ne oh. मैं नहीं मन्ने ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀਰ ਪਰਮਜੀਤ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਰੇਜ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੰਨੇ ਗੁਰ ਦੇ ਬਚਨ ਮੇਰੇ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਨੇ ਮੰਨੇ ਨੇ ਗੁਰ ਕੇ ਬਚਨ ਕਰਨ what Eileen was saying karan sunan ਧਿਆਵੇ what Gagan was also mentioning we internalize the stuff ਭਵ ਸਾਗਰ ਪਾਰ ਪਰੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਗगन ਗਹੇ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ it's about the ਭਵ ਸਾਗਰ ਦੇ ਪਾਰ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੁਰ ਕੇ ਬਚਨ ਸਤ ਜੀਏ ਧਾਰੋ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ we have to dwell the ਗੁਰ ਕੇ ਬਚਨ inside the ਹਿਰਦਾ only then we will be able to get out of this whole pavjal this whole space to me gagan is the space and once we do not go anywhere we do not wander around we stuck to that is the state of bihangam where we do not go anywhere, secondary source of whether it's historical, whether it is in time, space, anything, right? What I'm trying to say is we do not have to dig so hard to convince or to find meaning of simple Gurbani, which is scattered inside the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. And for all of you to just remind, Guru Granth Sahib is not secondary source. Harvinder would agree with me. Guru Granth Sahib is my primary source. That is through Guru Granth Sahib, I could recognize, I could appreciate, I could connect, I could contemplate, I could listen to Gur Ke Bachan. And that is the truth, like some of you were saying. It is the ultimate in truth. I don't have to read any other scripture, don't have to read any of the historical fact, don't have to consult anything other than Gur Ke Bachan that Gurbani tells me. And that's how I internalize. But once I have internalized, that brings us to Dilpreet Virji. I demonstrate it also. Oh Mary, it becomes my behavior. Unless until I have internalized, I cannot make Gur Ke Bachan as my behavior. Now I'll give you time. Let me explain the second pankti where Gurjeet Virji had made a reference. Or let me first tell you, when Guru is Mukta, Rara is Mukta, my understanding is it is about dhyan, it is about attention. And through reading, learning, researching Gurbani, one develops, it manifests. Dhyan apne aap vich manifest hunda. Utthon sadi aad bhagat shuru hundi hai. Gur, when it is mukta, it has to be connected. Dhyan has to be focused. Ekagar chit karna penda. That is where the Rara Mukta is. Thakur is when Rara has a Ankar. So, who chants in Dhuna? Can I, the home-laden, home-imbued person, connect directly to the Dhyan? No. Who will do it? My Thakur will do it. My Thakur loves the Guru and my Guru loves the Thakur. Rara Mukta and Rara Onkad are this way connected to each other. I am not there. I am simply a viewer and I am viewer to that connectivity which is a combination of Rara Mukta and Rara Vidonkar. That's my way of looking at it. I may be wrong, Vijay. I have to learn from you guys, your participation,
No, but
and I leave it to you guys.
then your meaning is exactly the same as Gurjeet Virji's. Both of you are saying exactly the same thing.
That's why I wanted to clarify, Naji. I just wanted to clarify that we are talking about everything. My only reason of disagreement is when we drag history into learning Gurbani. That's that's where I would be. I would challenge everyone on that, because Gurbani apne aap vich ek sampurn gyan hai. We should not look for any other thing but from the Gurbani itself. That is what I call internalization. That's my inspiration. I look for that. I don't consider any secondary source, even dictionaries. I don't value them. I try to learn from the dictionaries that are within the Gurbani. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But मेरा question हले भी दोनों ने नहीं आंसर किया है, आप जी ने भी ते गुरजीत वीर जी ने भी, कि भी गुर के बचन तुसी दोवें कह रहे हो कि because of other places you have assumed गुर के बचन to be Gurbani, and my question was still कि भी गुर के बचन इत्थे why cannot it be अंतरात्मा दी आवाज?
ਉਹ ਅੰਤਰਾਤਮਾ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, ਬਟ ਐਟ ਦੀ ਲੈਵਲ ਵੇਅਰ ਫੋਰਥ ਰੈਫਰੈਂਸ ਦੇਖੋ ਜੀ, ਗੁਰ ਕੇ ਬਚਨ ਸਤ ਜੀਏ ਧਾਰੋ, ਉਹ ਜਦੋਂ ਧਾਰੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਦੋਂ ਅੰਤਰਾਤਮਾ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਬਣਦੇ ਨੇ. ਫਸਟਲੀ ਵੈਨ our surti is spread everywhere, that is a simple dhyan. The more we try to focus on that, we try to hone our surt. ਜਿਵੇਂ ਗੁਰਜੀਤ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ, ਸਰਮਖੰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ we hone, we sharpen our attention, the surt, the consciousness. Once it is honed, only then it becomes Gur Ke Bachan, only then it dwells in the heart, only then it is recognized and appreciated as Sat, Sat, Sat. Otherwise, it's spread. One is bound to come in life and death cycle unless until the attention, the focus, the good is
आज दी डेट इज नाउ फॉर टुडे practically if I have to understand Gur Ke Bachan Pachhana and I want to implement Gur Ke Bachan Pachhana in my life, Pachhana would mean not like I go find out which are the true books of knowledge, because we know Gurbani has that, but Pachhana would be how do I identify it in my life and keep working on that.
Absolutely. And all the tools, measurements, researchable methodologies are available in Gurbani to identify what is Gur Ke Bachan. Does it make sense now? You don't have to do anything other than reading and reflecting and singing Gurbani or contemplating on Gurbani to understand, and once that Gur Ke Bachan is recognized, the whole problem is solved. You don't, no one needs anything other than recognizing.
That problem is solved, but I think there is validity in Gurjeet Virji's point also, because somebody like me who is, faltu da kehlo, tarki kehlo, the tark can always be made that Kabir ji hun Gur Ke Bachan kyun keh rahe ne, क्योंकि गुर के बचन कोडिफाई ते कीते नहीं गए. कबीर जी तो पहला कोई भगत होर होया नहीं जिन्हें कोडिफाई करके दिते, ना असी कदे सुने, ना गुरबाणी, ना गुरु ग्रंथ साहब विच आए. ते कबीर जी किस गुर के बचन दी गल कर रहे हैं. आई थिंक दैट the reference to history over there helps कि भी ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਵੀ ਗੁਰਜੀਤ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਤੋਂ ਹੀ ਕੱਢੀ ਕਿ ਬਈ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਮੈਂਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਮਗਰ ਗਿਆਨ ਲੈਣ ਗਿਆ. ਤੇ that helps us understand and solidify the very meaning that we just discussed, that Gur Ke Bachan is Gurbani for us, and even for Kabir ji it was Gurbani in whatever format he found it from the Sangat in Magar.
Okay, I have not gone through the references which Gurjeet Virji has given for the Magar and Kasi, right? Let me read that. I don't want to reflect without reading, because I am just sharing with you my strategy and my way of learning, the way I am more comfortable. I may be wrong, but so far when we read the second line, that Duji Baat Na Tari Kana, that eliminates me that eliminates for me all the sources which are other than Gurbani. Right? So if the source quoted,
sorry, एक मिनट वीर जी वो मेंशन कीते हुए हैं ऊपर पहला ਜਿਹੜੀ
जी मैं पढ़े नहीं, मैं I will read that.
ना ਤੁਸੀਂ this is the 9th podi when he starts with ओंकाराद में जानना. After that he says तुर्क तरीकत जानी है हिंदू वेद पुराण मन समझावन कारण कछुक पढ़िए ज्ञान पढ़न दी गल चल रही है. एंड लेट मी टेल यू जान पहचान वर्ड है पहला जानी दा फिर पहचानी दा. How you directly go to Shabd Guru straight away? Jaan is japna and pehchan is then you contemplate. Then pehchan comes in. है ना जो दस्या है जैसा सतगुर सुनीदा तैसो ही में डीठ पहचानना. पहला तो सुनिया ही है ना. Guru Nanak has to read this Bani, Kabir ji has to read from some other source, and the sources were available. That's what you want to say. But yogis haven't found it. Yogis were running a wrong religion at that time. That's what Kabir ji want to emphasize here too. That where you get all this naam from? Where is your Gurke Bachan? Yogi has no Gurke Bachan. So he's also attacking them too. That they are trying to spread as per Gurmat.
Oh, okay. How about we all do one thing? How about we all do one thing? Let us research just Gurke Bachan from only Gurbani, and let's share our understanding. If not this time, maybe on a blog or maybe something when we meet next time. I agree with you. I'm just sometimes I'm coming and sometimes I'm not coming. I am not familiar with the context of the previous 9 podi, and as I said, you would be right. I have to reread them. The references which you are giving, and if they are from the Guru Granth Sahib, I have to reread them. But my way of looking at thing is simply this, that as long as it is in the Gurbani, as long as it is from the Guru Granth Sahib, it's acceptable, and there may be an opportunity for me to learn as well. I'm not trying to confront anyone. I'm not trying to boost on anything.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਪੜੋਗੇ? Will you read the first shabad for Gurke Bachan, and I'll try to show what is my understanding. पहला वाला शब्द पढ़ोगे जी please?
Gurjit ji, I think we are running out of time today.
Oh, yeah, it will take half a second. पहला वाला पढ़ो please.
हाँ जी चरणवीर जी.
जी फिर देख लांगे.
गुरके बचन वाला पढ़ दो. ठाकुर जी मैं क्लियर कर रहा हूँ.
फिर देख लांगे. वो कल काम से जाना बाबियो.
हाफ ए मिनट लगना सिर्फ.
शुक्र है जी.
क्लैरिफाई हो जाएगा सडनली. क्लैरिफाई हो जाएगा
फटाफट. शब्द है गुर के बचन सत सत कर माने मेरे ठाकुर बहुत प्यारे.
ठीक है, जस्ट स्टॉप. ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਗੁਰ ਕੇ ਬਚਨ ਸਤ ਸਤ ਕਰ ਮੰਨੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਪਿਆਰਾ ਲੱਗਣ ਲੱਗਿਆ. once I read this, then all, because before I never knew ਘਰ में ठाकुर नजर ना आवे. I never knew that ठाकुर is with me. So ठाकुर is with loving my ठाकुर. This is what I will interpret.
ठीक है जी.
Okay जी.
क्या सर मत से जी भूल चुक माफी.
नहीं I am.
Thank you very much, everyone, and we will continue back on 13th of January. Vai Khalsa, Vai Guruji.